Hey everyone, I'm just back in my hat shop. I wanted to send out another quick video for you just as you are looking to do some analysis for today's uh, Act 3 lesson, the post. And so one of the resources I want to make sure you had available to you that you saw and noticed that was there, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to take you to our Canvas page. Make sure I find the right one. So heading over to Canvas, looking at the screen, you'll notice right here, it says lit devices to help assist you as well. And I'm just going to click on that, and that's going to give you a number of lit devices. So as you're looking at this list, though, keep in mind it's really easy to settle for things like alliteration or some of the more surface level stuff like, oh, this is a rhyming couplet or whatever. And I really want you guys to focus on those, on the imagery piece. I want you to focus on things like metaphor, simile. Personification is going to be a big one for us. Um, Different things. Tone, you definitely can, but don't get lost in tone. Tone is usually connected to another literary device, so it's okay in your analysis to mention more than one. But for right now, I just want you to make sure that you see where this list lives, and it is there to assist you. I'm just going to go back one. You'll also see it if I go back to our homepage and under our reading resources, you're going to see it there as well, just here where it says list of literary devices. So I just want to make sure you guys know that that is there. And sorry, I forgot to initially put that up. I thought it was already there, but it was not. But let me take you through just a quick little lesson, taking a look, trying to get I just really want to make sure I get a better, provide you guys with a good framework for Act 3, because it is an important act. Like I said last time, we get to the climax of the actual story. So let me share again with you, and here we go. So first thing is first. I just titled this Macbeth's Scorpion-Filled Mind. This is a line directly out of the play. In this scene, you're going to come across this. I don't know how much experience you all have with scorpions. I have minimal, and I would like to keep it that way because they are an unpleasant creature to share any proximity with. They have stingers, and stingers hurt. But as far as the analysis piece of today's work is concerned, we're going to be doing this type of analysis again on Thursday. We're going to be doing it next week as well. But one of those lit devices to pay close attention to that might be helpful in your analysis, especially for our Macbeth passage for today, is imagery. And just to highlight some very dominant types of imagery within this entire play: darkness, light and dark, animals, scorpions, stingers. That is very vivid animal imagery. That's one thing that you can even include in your analysis. Blood, or talk more about blood. Lady Macbeth and Macbeth will talk a lot about it. And looking at these thematic topics like trust and betrayal, appearance and reality, leadership and kingship. Those first two, trust and betrayal, especially that second one, appearance and reality. The rest of the play, but especially Act 3. Act 3 really is all about appearance and reality. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are trying to appear that they are not heartless murderers that are okay to kill innocent people, but in fact they are. And this now is the impact of crossing that line and killing innocents. This is now what your life is like. You cannot just pretend that everything is okay and that you didn't do this heinous act and everything will be okay. No, no, no. There are consequences to that. And so this act is starting to show those consequences. Those consequences hit Macbeth way harder than Lady Macbeth at first. But what's interesting in this act is you start to see this shift where Macbeth seems the one to be psychologically disturbed. Lady Macbeth seems to be the calming hand. And then it goes deeper and darker for Macbeth and in one way, and Lady Macbeth becomes even more psychologically disturbed than her husband does. But for right now, she's the one that's like, hey, honey, you need to snap out of it. Man up is what she tells him again. And she oftentimes calling him a woman, which in historical gender roles, men don't typically like to be compared to women. Uh, they just don't, because there's that synonymity. There's that analogousness. No, being called a woman or womanish is in stereotypical terms is you're weak. You're weak. And so anyway, coming back to this idea of appearance and reality, you cannot you cannot just pretend like you aren't a killer that has done this terrible thing. And if you do, this is the reality that you're going to be faced with. You're not going to be feeling very good. So if you haven't gone and listened to the Telltale Heart that I posted on Canvas, do so, because it's really an important framework for us to really get into the mind of the story. This is the moment in Breaking Bad where Carl White has decided to become a meth dealer and a respectable chemistry teacher. Um, this is that moment. And for those of you that don't follow Breaking Bad, my apologies. But go and listen to it, enjoy it. But it really does this good job of showing what you lose when you go down this road of killing innocents. And this is such a creepy and awesome art piece of artwork, a painting actually of this scene where the main character of the Telltale Heart is putting to silence the old man that is living under his roof. Of course, this is also an echo of this moment of Macbeth coming to kill an innocent person while they're sleeping. And for us, if we've grown up as we all have grown up, just our general childhood fears, and when we are in a sleeping state, we are in our most vulnerable state, and to have that state interrupted by someone who is intent on causing us harm, specifically bodily harm. These are the moments that I don't know that you can grow up without having some of these fears of someone taking advantage of us in our most vulnerable state, especially if they are people that we actually trust. And so this is the moment. And so what does Macbeth do? He tries to do what the main character of Telltale Heart does. He tries to shove all this beneath the floorboards. Yes, that is a concerning illustration of what happens in the Telltale Heart, but he's trying to just pretend like that didn't happen. Pretend that there is no evidence to find. The evidence of wrongdoing is there's nothing to see. It's all clean. It's sanitized. But the problem is, it's not just the physical evidence. It's what happens as a result of crossing this line. You guys are going to hear me say it again. And here's another artist depiction. Yes, he kills the old man. He buries him beneath the floorboards. But it's that beating heart that does not stop. And of course, the old man's heart is not beating. He's dead. He's dead as can be. He's buried beneath the floorboards. But that heartbeat is what is left as a result of that guilt, the end result of killing an innocent. Here's another artist depiction from the Telltale Heart that I really think is helpful. Notice the floorboards have been carved out. The shape of the floorboards or the heart itself, and the eye just gazing at the eye always being symbolic, like in Gatsby, like in Lord of the Rings, that you are always being watched. You cannot escape this. We even see this in Greek mythology with the Eye of the Fates. We looked at that on our first lesson together. And notice the specter of the police constables, right? They're faceless. They are coming for you. That's the feeling that these guys are advancing towards you, or death or consequences for your actions is coming towards you. This brings us all the way back to this story where, yeah, you might try to cover up something that you've done, but there are consequences. For this particular character played by Christian Bale, he can't sleep. He physically cannot sleep. He is in misery because of what he's done. And then actually it isn't until the very end of the actual film where he finally confesses and he turns himself in. That's the first time for who knows how long that the character can actually sleep, because what's under the floorboards haunting him has been taken out, and he is now finally able to rest because he doesn't have to pretend to be this way when in fact this is what's real. So the question that comes up for us is, what will we find if we start pulling up the floorboards? That's what we're looking at. How firm is that flooring, and how easy will the consequences of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth's actions come back up to haunt them? And again, going back to, I can't emphasize enough the importance of listening to or even reading the Telltale Heart, because that casts the framework for where we're at in the play at this point. And so here's Macbeth. Notice he's got what he wanted. He has the crown, but he says this to Lady Macbeth in Act 3, "Full of scorpions is my mind." If you just look at the expression of Michael Fassbender, who's playing Macbeth, if you look at the expression on his face, that is not a king who looks comfortable. He looks like someone who is psychologically tormented, and he is. And of course, this goes back to this moment. The blood gets taken off. He washes the blood off of his hands. However, the stains are still there, even if you can't see them. even if you can't see them, no matter how hard Macbeth tries to wipe the blood figuratively off of his hands, he can't. No matter how deep he tries to bury beneath the floorboards what he's done to King Duncan, he can't. And so now we get to this. This is a great shot from the film. Notice just the open space, and Macbeth is completely isolated. There's his bed, but he's not in it because he can't sleep. This takes us even back to Act 2, where Macbeth says, "Methought I heard," this is when he's talking to Lady Macbeth after he's killed Duncan. He thinks he hears a voice that cries, "Sleep no more." He actually doesn't. Or sorry, that voice isn't actually happening, unless of course we can assume it's one of the three witches playing with Macbeth. But this is interesting. Macbeth doth murder sleep, the innocent sleep, sleep that knits up the raveled sleeve of care, the death of each day's life, sore labor's bath, balm of hurt minds, great nature's second course, chief nourisher in life's feast. Still it cried, "Sleep no more." To all the house Glamis hath murdered sleep, and therefore Cawdor shall sleep no more. Macbeth shall sleep no more. Now, this is one of those moments where Shakespeare, as a writer, opens the floodgates of literary devices and just. We actually see a lot of examples of this from the great hip hop artists of our day. Jay-Z does this all the time. Kendrick Lamar does this all the time. Kanye West does this all the time. Mary J. Blige does this all the time, where you don't just get one little bit of literary device. There's just a deluge, I think that's the right word, of them. And let's look at them real quick together. And that Macbeth does murder sleep. You can't murder sleep, right? Unless sleep's a person, or you're using personification. Sleep that knits up the raveled sleeve of care. Again, personification. Sleep isn't a person that can knit things, although in this context, we are Shakespeare, or Macbeth, is describing the healing power that sleep can have. Well, Macbeth has now given that up because there is no redemption for what he's done. The death of each day's life, sore labor's bath, right? The idea of taking a bath to help your soreness. That is what sleep is being compared to. The idea of sleep being the death of the day, but at the end of that sleep, you get to arise to something new. Well, Macbeth doesn't get the healing powers of sleep. Here's one. I've got some balm. Here it is. Some of you will reckon, oh, no, you can't see it. There it is. There's my tiger balm, right? Athletes, you don't have to be an athlete to wear tiger balm, but this is something that you put on to heal sore muscles, right? Let's keep going. The balm of hurt minds, great nature's second course. You actually have two metaphors there. One where sleep is being referenced to food, and the balm. Chief nourisher in life's feast. There's that same food metaphor, comparing sleep to food that's nourishing. So even in that, Glamis hath murdered sleep, and therefore Cawdor. Glamis is actually a place, but you're being, anyway. Guys, look at all of those literary devices. And again, this is coming back to that coming back to that appearance reality thing. You don't get to sleep anymore, Macbeth. You are paying the natural consequences of what happens when you kill an innocent person. Macbeth says this, this is from your reading for tonight. Better be with the dead whom we gain to our peace, have sent to peace, than on torture of mind to lie in restless ecstasy. In other words, it's better to be dead. That's what he's saying, because of how restless he is. And Lady Macbeth, the sober-minded one, points out, no. All this stuff that you're talking about, this is like the air-drawn dagger that you saw. You're hallucinating. Your mind needs to man up. You need to calm down. This is the, she even uses a metaphor, this is the painting of your fear. This is you allowing things to get to you, and you need to control them. And again, two characters, they get exactly what they want, and they can't enjoy it, right? They can't enjoy it. And what Lady Macbeth, as you'll learn in your reading, as they're getting ready for this big feast, what Lady Macbeth does not know is that Macbeth can't stop by just killing Duncan. He now has to go and kill Fleance, Banquo, and he actually keeps that from her. And keep in mind, it's one thing to kill a full-grown man or men. It's another thing to now be murdering children, innocent children. And Macbeth actually keeps this away from Lady Macbeth. He doesn't tell her at first. But anyway, this banquet scene really is a climactic moment where Macbeth is freaking out. Lady Macbeth is constantly saying, you need to calm down. You have guests. I don't know how many of you guys have had that experience where something is very wrong in a social situation, but you're having to pretend like it's not. And that is the scene where Lady Macbeth and Macbeth, they're having this banquet, and Macbeth is trying to pretend like he hasn't just hired murderers to go and kill Banquo and his son. And Lady Macbeth is trying to get her husband to calm down because now he's seeing a ghost and he's talking to the ghost and then he's talking to himself and then he's talking to his guests. And there's just so much going on. Again, this is one of those moments that would be benefited. We would benefit by watching, but we're just gonna have to make do with what we have. So, anyway, back to our analysis. Our for today. Again, we're wanting to identify those lit terms. If we're going to say imagery, be specific of what type of imagery we're talking about. Is it animal imagery? Is it light and dark imagery? What type of imagery? And anyway, hopefully that's helpful to you guys, and shoot me any questions or thoughts that come up as needed. Other than that, I'm going to sign off for now. Bye for now, guys.